Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the common normal flying type Pokemon Pidove, the Tiny Pigeon Pokémon, its relatively uncommon evolution Tranquill, the Wild Pigeon Pokémon, and its final relatively rare evolution Unfezant, the Proud Pokémon. While they might not come off as the most dangerous of bird Pokemon, the members of the Pidove family are still fairly common creatures that can definitely make good use of their flying attributes from afar to make themselves a nuisance at the very least. Pidove have small, squat bodies with light gray feathers in the shape of a heart on their chest, and a darker gray coat on the rest of their form, with black stripes on their folded wings and back. Their feet are pink with 3 black claws, 2 in the front and 1 in the back for stability. They have a black beak with pink markings around their nostrils on their upper sides, and they have brilliantly colored golden yellow eyes that stand out even in the daylight. Their evolved form, Tranquill, have a similar color pattern in their feathers, with their face, neck, and wings being a lighter shade of gray than before, and a plumage of black feathers extending from their forehead down across the back of their neck, with a spike of feathers at the top and a fluffy spread of feathers near the base of their neck. They retain the same eye color as Pidove, but their beaks are yellow and much larger in form, with red markings cresting their forehead around their black plumage, just above their eyes, and they now have 4 claws on each foot. They also now have noticeable tail feathers on their behind, with a dark gray coloration and more black stripes that form a pleasing pattern. Their final evolution, Unfezant, are starkly different in form depending upon whether they are male or female. In both cases, they have a similar plumage color as seen in their pre-evolutions, though the black portions rim and cover their body like a network, especially on their tail feathers, forming a gorgeous body pattern with 3-toed gray feet. In the case of females, they have a section of brown plumage on their lower forms that weakly blends in with the rest of their body, and their head has no further adornment. In the case of males, however, this brown plumage is a bright green color, and their heads are covered in a bright pink plumage, like a mask, that covers the upper face and extends down and in front of them with 2 tassel-like structures that grant them a gorgeous and vibrant appearance. Pidove and its evolutions are different from many other bird Pokemon in that they are surprisingly accustomed to humans and do not seem to mind them whatsoever, which can make them both a boon to novice trainers and a potential annoyance for everyone else in the world. These creatures in recent times have found themselves to be a common feature in towns and cities as a result of them having little to no natural predators in these areas, and have thus come to use these locations as perfect nesting sites at a young age. Flocks often gathering in parks and plazas, and rarely ever moving from these environments until they evolve and must return to the wild to procreate. It is not entirely certain why they only live in these environments at a young age, but regardless, this can make them a bit of a pest, as they tend to make their nests wherever they can, even if it is in the most inopportune of places, such as the sign of a large store. Many attempts have been made in places like the Unova region to try and eradicate them, but they usually always fail as mating season passes and more of the birds move from the forests into the city, so it is a minor reprieve at best. Thankfully, they do not usually make themselves a problem, minus the droppings they leave everywhere, and are known for making good pets for those that are just starting out on their journey as a Pokemon trainer. Despite their simple appearances, these creatures are actually quite strong, with a particularly thick set of breast muscles that are able to precisely target the weakest points of their opponents easily, a trait that is part of their inherent behavior and surprisingly efficient predatory instincts, and can thus have access to the big pecks and super luck abilities as base abilities, while those that are more inclined to squabble with creatures of the opposite gender can have access to rivalry as a hidden ability. In terms of stats, in the case of Unfezant, while they might not have much to offer stat-wise in the way of special powers, which is a problem as most of their offensive attacks are special in nature, these birds are surprisingly sturdy and can both move fast and take a physical hit quite well while dishing them out at a decent level of power in turn. As such, their base attack, defense, and speed stats are all well above average for a fully evolved normal and flying type Pokemon. Everything else, though, is below average. These birds might look to be about nothing but appearances, but they are definitely more than that, and can put to use their odd offenses to make themselves creatures to take notice of as soon as they hit the battlefield, for one reason or another. Pidove are a bit different from other young bird Pokemon in that they are gifted with the power to use the Gust attack immediately from birth, and tend to specialize more in moves of the special nature, even though their base attack stat is significantly higher in all of their evolutionary states. Even so, this makes these beasts a bit trickier to deal with at first, and capable of making themselves a bit of a threat in a fight. But even with this, their move variety is quite limited, and they must rely then on their odd mix of techniques to supplement this issue, such as Roost and Detect. This is not the only inherent problem with these birds though, as while they are generally easy to train and can be worked with quite readily, they are not among the most intelligent of bird Pokemon out there and have poorly developed short-term memory skills. While these birds can understand at least basic commands and communicate at a basic level with other Pokemon, they show an inability to follow more complex directions and are thus somewhat hard to use in serious fights. In some cases, these birds may become so absent-minded that they end up stalling in battle, waiting for the trainer to give a command, even though they have already been given one and either didn't understand it or were not paying attention. This can make these little birds a bit of a pain, especially since they take a bit longer to evolve than most other young bird Pokemon, but this can at least be mitigated somewhat with intense training and thus should not be a huge deterrent to raising them. Tranquill are vastly different from Pidove in showing a much greater degree of intelligence and preferring to live in forests far from human civilization. In fact, it has proven to be almost impossible to locate and find Tranquill nests in the wild. It is unknown why they are so elusive, and it has often been rumored that the creatures may, somewhere deep in the forests of their home, live in a place that is free of strife and conflict, where there is no war or battle, only peace and calmness. The validity of these claims is of course questionable, but these beasts do tend to show a calmer nature than Pidove and will only fight if they feel truly threatened, so the idea of living in a utopian environment might not be completely far-fetched. Regardless though, what can be said about these creatures is that they have terrific memory and deduction skills, and have often been used as carriers for mail and other things, especially those of a secretive nature. These creatures are like homing pigeons in this regard, as they can be easily trained to fly from one place to another by memory alone, but their skills go much, much farther than this. As it turns out, these creatures can find just about any location with nothing more than a picture or something to smell to go off of, and are incredibly accurate with their movements and tracking abilities, enough to warrant their use by the military in times of war. While this means that they can never be truly separated from their nest, and can always find their trainer no matter how far away they fly from them, this also means that they can be lured into traps by holding certain persons and items hostage, so the reasoning skills are not always perfect, but this is a small price to pay for the otherwise impressive tracking capabilities. When these creatures evolve into Unfezant, a radical change to their form occurs as a result of sexual dimorphism in the family at this stage of development. In the case of females, these creatures become more hostile as a whole and unafraid to defend their territory with brashness and fervor, and can move quite effectively both on land and in the air, making them a threat. On the upside though, they can generally work quite well with other Pokemon, as they are accustomed to being with more than one partner during mating season, and are thus fairly ordinary in their attributes. Males, on the other hand, are different as a result of the generation of a mask-like crest that covers their face. This crest is made of compacted down that is strong and thick enough to be seen as a potential threat to others, as its sturdy form allows it to maintain its shape even when the tassels coming off of it are swung around, and males will use this plumage to do just that in the face of danger. If the males are threatened, they will attempt to intimidate their opponent by swinging the tassels on their crest around their head, with them moving so much as a solid structure that they look completely solid and may potentially be a weapon, though in truth they are too soft to actually hurt anything. If this intimidation does not work, however, these birds will not stand and fight and instead fly away, as the crest is vital during mating season and they cannot risk having it damaged. The crests serve to make these creatures a bit less aerodynamic compared to females, and thus slightly worse flyers, but this is of little consequence to them, as the crests are needed in order to attract mates during the proper season, with female Unfezants being more closely drawn to crests that have a smoother, more neatly textured look and brilliant color to them. Sadly for trainers, this crest also makes these birds harder to work with, as male Unfezant attach themselves to only a single individual, female Unfezant or trainer alike, for their entire lives, and thus do not like working with others outside of that relationship, making them harder to battle with when using more than one Pokemon on your side of the battlefield. Still, they can get access to some fairly powerful attacks later in life, including the rare Sky Attack move, so they can still be worth sticking around with if one does not have access to stronger bird Pokemon to pull from. They might not always be the smartest of birds at all points in their life, but the members of the Pidove family are still fun birds to play with and can definitely make good use of the wind at a young age to make themselves a bit troubling for some. It might take some time before they get access to some truly useful offenses to work with, but these birds can still hit hard and make themselves a nuisance to those without something strong to either take them out quickly or take the brunt of their basic strikes. Just do yourself a favor and try not to get in the way of a male Unfezant when mating season is ongoing. The females might not mind your presence too much, but you'd better think twice about feeling safe if you put yourself in accidentally as a rival and have to face these birds in an angry and enraged state without something to protect you from harm. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description.
Yeah, no.
With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.